Oklahoma City Police held forums at two high schools Monday evening to discuss the relationship between the city's black community and law enforcement.
Major Nelson for coming on out. This is our second one.
Members of the community had a chance to ask questions about recruiting more black officers and developing stronger relationships with youth. Following the forum at Douglas Mid-High in northeast Oklahoma City, Waylon Cubitt, a lieutenant with the Oklahoma City Police Department, spoke with our Ben Felder about being a black police officer and what he hoped the conversation between the police and the community would lead to.
You are a police officer, but you're also an African American, and you talked about having that talk with your kids. Can you kind of maybe talk about that a little bit, about just, knowing that perspective, even though you are a member of the department?
Right. It's a difficult balance, is that I have the perspective from a police officer view. I mean, I know all of the safety issues. I know all the things that we guard against. I know all the things that need to take place during the contact. And I also know the statistics, the disproportionate minority contacts. I also remember being followed around in the mall. I remember that people have these stereotypes about African Americans. Many of those that are not real or not true, but are supported through media, different media outlets. And so I had to have that talk with my son. My father had to have the talk with me. And I'm not naive to those fears that African Americans feel in this community. But one of the things that this community don't have is they don't have the perspective as a police officer. So I know what it feels like to be followed in the mall. I know what it feels like to be stereotyped, but I also know what it feels like to have to handle certain situations in a safe way. And so I'm able to see it from both ways, and so I kind of have a dual perspective and able to speak to these situations.
Yeah, and I want to ask about tonight, but what's it been like for you? Last few weeks. I mean, some of these incidents have been going back a couple years, but it seems like these issues have become so polarized, where you have it's either the community versus police officers. I mean, you talk about having that duality. What's it been like for you watching these incidents happen and seeing the kind of political nature of this conversation?
Right. It's tough to speak to those things and how I feel, because on one side I may actually see it from the police officer's point of view, and seeing it by the police officer's point of view is sometimes seeing my community as a rejection of the validity of what my community feels when they see those things. And then at the same time, when I see the validity of those incidents on tape and how it does support the community more so than the police, then maybe I'm looked at as a sympathizer for different causes by my profession. And so what I try to do is be true to myself and true to those incidents, and speak perspective from both sides into each individual incident.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about your message to community, but what did you hear tonight? I mean, what have you heard from the community? I mean, a lot of questions being asked, but what do you feel like is the message from this community to the police department? What are you hearing?
Man, our community, by and large, has been really, really supportive during these type of forums. They do have concerns. They do have legitimate concerns, and they just don't have the same perspective. And so when they come to things like this, they get perspective. But as you saw here tonight, they ask to pray for us officers, and they support us 100%. They support our programs and our outreach programs. And so they know it's a challenging time for police officers, and we also recognize the fact that it's a challenging time for African Americans in our community. And being able to come together and talk that out is actually refreshing. It actually feels very, very good. And I'm glad and I'm very happy to be in Oklahoma City at a time like this, and that our community has chosen to act out this way in love and companionship rather than resistance and fighting all the time.
And finally, what are your messages to the community? I mean, when you get a chance to speak in front of a group like this, what are you hoping the takeaway is for them?
The takeaway should be that our department cares about us, that the police department actually wants to get it right. We know that we have challenges, and so we want to validate their concerns. We don't want to always be us talking to them, but I want to feel like that they're heard tonight, and that not only are we listening to those concerns, but we're able and willing to act on the concerns that they have as much as we can. So we talked about training, and we talked about helping us with different ways of recruiting. We're listening, and so that's the main thing we want to do. Is it's not just a us and them mentality; it's a us together kind of thing. And I just want them to feel that we are in this thing of safety, community, and protecting and serving. We're doing it together. It's not one and the other.